Hello, my name is John Remington Johnson Mayo. Ignore John Wayne over there. I know he might be distracting, but my presentation is over Tesla Motors. I was originally slated to talk about Tesla Motors, the company, for the first 5 minutes of my presentation, and then move on to talking about Elon Musk for the other half. I've decided against that. I have enough material to talk about for 10 minutes regarding Tesla Motors, the company. I will speak about Elon Musk because he's a big part of Tesla. You've heard about Tesla, you've heard about Elon Musk. The two are synonymous. I was very surprised when I found out that, in fact, Elon Musk didn't found Tesla Motors. Two men by the name of Mark Terpening and Martin Eberhard actually founded Tesla Motors. The two had previously started a business together, selling what was essentially the first e-reader. That was back in 1997. They ended up selling that company in 2000 for $187 million. Whenever they sold the company, they knew they wanted to start another one. They just were unsure. Eberhard decided that he wanted to buy a sports car. So he went online, looked at all the different sports cars on the market. He didn't want to pay for something that only got 18 miles to the gallon. So being the techie guy that he was, he made a spreadsheet and he went through the list of every single two-seater sports car and figured out how efficient they were. He found out two things that day that really started to get him thinking about getting into the electric car business. First thing Eberhard discovered was that hydrogen fuel cells were just as inefficient as gas. The second was that electric cars were leagues beyond their competition in terms of efficiencies even back then. With that information, Eberhard started looking into electric car companies. What he found was a company called AC Propulsions based out of California. They had a car that was called the T0. The T0 was this small yellow handcrafted car that this company had made. They were a tech company, so they had a bunch of proprietary technology in it, including an induction motor. So what an induction motor does that's different from combustion motors is it allows you the ability to generate torque as soon as you press the pedal. So if you're going to speed up in your typical combustion engine car, what does your car do? It kind of stalls for a second and then kind of lurches forward. Now they've made it to where that isn't as bad as that sounds with the lurching, but it still does it. In these vehicles that use induction motors, that torque is just instant. Another thing that these induction motors have is regenerative braking. And so what that allows is the energy your car expends to slow itself down is actually put back into the battery. The induction motor actually made this a very efficient car. Eberhard decided he had to have a test drive. They didn't let him test drive it, but they let him ride in it. So he gets in the car and they're going, and it goes fine, and the guy slows down to about 10 miles per hour and he says, okay, now touch the dashboard. And as soon as Eberhard sticks out his hand to touch the dashboard, the guy just presses on the pedal, and this car goes 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. The G-force pushed Eberhard back and his hand never made it to the dashboard. At that moment, Eberhard felt vindicated. He said, this is what I want. This is where I want to go with my business. So he thinks about teaming up with AC Propulsions, thinks about working with them. He gets a feel for the company and decides that his ambition with where he wants to take electric cars isn't going to mesh well with the company's culture. After deciding he would start his own electric car company, he had to figure out why the automobile industry hadn't taken advantage of this opportunity. Well, they actually had, or at least tried to. General Motors had actually spent over $1 billion creating their car called the EV1. It stands for electric vehicle, the term still in play today. And almost all of them ended up being repossessed. they determined that it wasn't a viable product for their long-term business plan. Other than that, there was a bunch of news articles that were out saying that there was no way electric cars could really enter the market, that batteries haven't improved in the last century, which is true of lead-based batteries, lead-acid-based batteries. This is where Mark Turpinning comes back into the picture. He knows that lithium-ion batteries, as opposed to the lead-acid batteries, actually improve at a rate of about 7% every year. So not only would their batteries improve, but they would also become cheaper over time. They would be entering a market where things actually got easier for them. This is the moment that both men knew for sure they were going to create an electric car company. The two founders secured partnerships with AC Propulsions to use their proprietary technology, and a British car manufacturer that had a car called the Lotus, which was a cheap sports car that they were able to use the frames for. With those partnerships secured, they sought out investor funding. They didn't really get much funding until they made an appointment and met with Elon Musk. He had co-founded PayPal, so he was pretty rich at the time, and he actually led the first round of investing with $7.5 million. They were originally going to sit down with him for a 30-minute meeting. He ended up keeping them there, questioning them, seeing where they think the company will go for over 2 hours. The $7.5 million investment bought Elon Musk the title of chairman of the board. So he was now chairman, and that was back in 2003. So by November of 2004, they actually had their first prototype called a Mule. It didn't have any of the body panels, but it was put together, and they took it for a test drive, and it ran, it took off, no wheels fell off, so they called it a success, and they secured some more funding, which again was led by Elon Musk. They were able to secure $13 million that time. 2 years later, in 2006, a documentary came out titled What Killed the Electric Car? And Tesla took that as the perfect opportunity to hire a PR firm and throw this big event. They tried to get as many celebrities and bigwigs as they could to go, and they had two Tesla prototypes there, which had their body panels this time and everything, and they took everyone at the party for a test ride, and everyone was impressed. The media failed to really recognize Elon Musk for his contribution, and this didn't really sit well with him. He probably had this face on.